Karen stormed into the coffee shop, her perfectly manicured nails tapping an impatient rhythm against the counter. She had been looking forward to her usual caramel macchiato all morning, but the barista's tardiness was about to ruin her entire day. "Excuse me," she barked, her voice dripping with condescension. "I've been waiting for over 10 minutes. Where is my drink?" The young barista, Samantha, flinched at the abrasive tone. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. We're a bit behind this morning, but your order is coming up right now." Karen scoffed and rolled her eyes dramatically. "Well, this is unacceptable. I have a busy schedule, and I don't have time to wait around for supper service." Samantha hurried to finish the macchiato, her hands trembling slightly. She knew better than to argue with a customer like Karen, who seemed determined to make a scene no matter what. As Samantha carefully placed the steaming drink on the counter, Karen snatched it up, nearly spilling the contents. "About time," she muttered, taking a sip. Her face immediately twisted in disgust. "This is wrong. I ordered a caramel macchiato, not a mocha latte. Are you people incapable of getting the simplest order right?" Karen slammed the cup down, splashing hot liquid onto the counter. Samantha's heart sank. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Let me remake that for you right away." "No, forget it," Karen snapped. "I'm not waiting another minute for your incompetence. I want to speak to the manager. Now." The shop owner, John, emerged from the back, having witnessed the entire exchange. He approached the counter with a weary sigh. "How can I help you, ma'am?" he asked, his tone polite but firm. "Finally, someone who could actually do their job," Karen huffed. "This barista of yours made a complete mess of my order, and I won't stand for that kind of shoddy service." John glanced at Samantha, who was trying her best to hold back tears. "I assure you, ma'am, we take great pride in providing excellent customer service. Let me make you a new drink, on the house." "On the house?" Karen scoffed. "Do you have any idea who I am? I am a regular customer here, and I expect to be treated with the utmost respect. This is completely unacceptable, and I will be filing a formal complaint." John raised his hand, attempting to calm the situation. "Please, let's not escalate this. I'm happy to refund your purchase or—" "Refund?" Karen interrupted, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "I don't want a refund. I want you to fire this incompetent barista and hire someone who can actually do their job properly." Samantha's eyes widened in horror, and she looked pleadingly at John. The shop owner took a deep breath, clearly struggling to maintain his composure. "I'm afraid I can't do that, ma'am. Samantha is a valued member of our team, and—" "Then I guess I'll have to take my business elsewhere," Karen declared, her lips curling into a malicious smile. "Good luck finding customers who will tolerate this level of substandard service." With that, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the shop, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. The sound of the shop door slamming shut seemed to echo through the empty space, leaving Samantha and John in a tense silence. Samantha's hands trembled as she stared at the counter, her vision blurred by unshed tears. John let out a heavy sigh and placed a gentle hand on Samantha's shoulder. "Don't let her get to you, Samantha. You know you're an excellent barista, and I value the hard work you do." Samantha sniffed and nodded, though the sting of Karen's harsh words still lingered. "I'm sorry, John. I should have just remade the drink instead of trying to reason with her." "That's not your fault," John replied firmly. "Karen is the one being unreasonable. We can't control how customers behave, but we can control how we respond." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "I know it's not easy, but try not to take it personally. Some people just have a knack for making others feel small, and that says a lot more about them than it does about you." Samantha nodded again, taking a deep breath to compose herself. "Thank you, John. I appreciate you standing up for me." "Of course," John said with a reassuring smile. "Now let's get this place cleaned up and focus on the customers who actually appreciate the hard work we do. As they set about tidying the counter and restocking supplies, the shop began to fill with a familiar hum of activity. Regulars trickled in, greeting Samantha and John with warm smiles and friendly banter. But the incident with Karen weighed heavily on Samantha's mind. She couldn't help but wonder if the woman's threat to file a formal complaint would have any lasting consequences. Later that afternoon, as Samantha was wiping down the espresso machine, the phone rang. John answered it, his expression quickly shifting from one of polite interest to barely concealed irritation. "Yes, ma'am, I understand," he said, his tone measured but firm. "I can assure you that we take all customer feedback seriously, and we will look into this matter further." He listened for a moment, then replied, "I'm afraid I can't discuss personnel matters with you, but I can say that Samantha is a valued member of our team. If you have any other concerns, please feel free to come in and speak with me directly." With that, John hung up the phone and turned to Samantha, his brow furrowed with concern. "That was Karen," he said simply, and Samantha felt her heart sink. Samantha's stomach twisted into knots as John relayed the news. She knew that Karen's threat to file a complaint was no empty one, and the thought of potentially losing her job sent a wave of panic through her. "What did she say?" Samantha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. John sighed heavily. "She claims she's going to contact the corporate office and demand that we fix this situation. Her words, not mine. She threatened to make sure you're dealt with appropriately." Samantha felt the color drain from her face. "Oh God, John, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I should have just remade the drink instead of trying to argue with her." John shook his head firmly. "Samantha, this is not your fault. Karen was completely out of line, and her behavior is not acceptable, regardless of whether she's a regular customer or not." He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Listen, I'm not going to let her bully me or you. I stand by what I said. You're a valued member of this team, and I'm not going to fire you just because some entitled customer demands it." Samantha nodded, though the worry was still etched on her face. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to call her bluff," John said determinedly. "I'll contact the corporate office myself and explain the situation. I have no doubt they'll side with us, especially if we have a record of her past outbursts." He paused, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. "And if that doesn't work, I may have a few tricks up my sleeve to make sure she thinks twice before coming back here." Samantha couldn't help but smile at John's unwavering support. "Thank you, John. I really appreciate you having my back." "Always," John replied with a reassuring smile. "Now let's get back to work. The best way to show Karen that her tactics won't work is to continue providing excellent service to our loyal customers." As the day wore on, Samantha found herself on high alert, half expecting Karen to storm back into the shop at any moment. But the hours ticked by without incident, and by the time closing time rolled around, she began to let her guard down. That is, until she stepped outside and found a piece of paper taped to her car windshield. Dread pooled in the pit of her stomach as she peeled it off and read the scrawled message. "This isn't over. You'd better watch your back." Samantha's hands trembled as she stared at the ominous message scrawled on the paper. Her heart pounded in her chest, and a chill ran down her spine. She couldn't believe that Karen would stoop to such a threatening level. Quickly, Samantha crumpled the paper and shoved it into her pocket, glancing around the dimly lit parking lot. She hurried to her car, her eyes darting back and forth, searching for any sign of the vindictive customer. Once safely inside her vehicle, Samantha took a few deep breaths, trying to calm her nerves. She knew she needed to tell John about the note, but a part of her was hesitant, worried that it would only further aggravate the situation. As she drove home, Samantha replayed the day's events in her mind, wondering where she had gone wrong. She had always prided herself on her customer service skills, but with Karen, it seemed like nothing she did was ever good enough. When Samantha arrived at her apartment, She immediately called John, her voice trembling as she recounted the threatening message. "I can't believe she would do something like this," Samantha said, her hands shaking. "What if she tries to hurt me or something?" John's voice was calm and reassuring on the other end of the line. "Don't worry, Samantha. I'll call the police and report this. We're not going to let Karen intimidate you or get away with this." Samantha felt a small sense of relief, but the fear still lingered. What if she tries to get me fired again? I can't afford to lose this job, John. "I promised you, Samantha, that's not going to happen," John said firmly. "I've already started the process of filing a formal complaint against Karen with the corporate office. They take these kinds of threats very seriously." Samantha let out a shaky breath. "I'm just so scared, John. What if she tries to retaliate? I don't know what I'd do." "I understand your concern, but I want you to know that you have my full support," John assured her. "If Karen continues to harass you, we'll take legal action. In the meantime, I want you to focus on taking care of yourself. Maybe consider taking a few days off to clear your head." Samantha nodded, even though John couldn't see her. "Okay, thank you. I appreciate everything you're doing." "Of course," John replied. "I'll keep you posted on the situation. In the meantime, stay safe, Samantha. I'll see you soon." As Samantha hung up the phone, she felt a mixture of relief and trepidation. She knew that John was doing everything he could to protect her, but the uncertainty of the situation weighed heavily on her mind. She could only hope that Karen's threats were just empty words, and that this ordeal would soon be over. The following day, Samantha hesitantly returned to work, her eyes scanning the shop for any sign of Karen. John had assured her that the police were investigating the threatening note, but Samantha couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered. As she began her shift, John pulled her aside, his expression serious. "Samantha, I wanted to give you an update on the situation," he said, his voice low. "The police have reviewed the security footage from yesterday, and they were able to identify Karen as the one who left the note on your car." Samantha felt a wave of relief mixed with a twinge of apprehension. "So, what happens now?" John sighed heavily. "Well, the good news is that the police are taking this very seriously. They've issued a restraining order against Karen, which means she's not allowed to come within 500 feet of the shop or make any further contact with you." Samantha nodded, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. "That's a relief. But what if she tries to violate the order?" "If she does, she'll be arrested on the spot," John assured her. "The police have also agreed to increase patrols around the shop, just to be on the safe side." Samantha let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Thank you, John. I really appreciate you taking this so seriously." John placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression warm. "Of course, Samantha. You're part of this team, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Karen's behavior is completely unacceptable, and I'm not going to let her intimidate or threaten you." Samantha felt a surge of gratitude towards her boss. "I don't know what I'd do without your support, John. This whole situation has been so stressful, but knowing that you have my back makes a big difference." "That's what family is for," John said with a smile. "Now let's get back to work. The best way to show Karen that her tactics won't work is to continue providing the excellent service our customers have come to expect." As the day progressed, Samantha found herself feeling more at ease. The presence of the increased police patrols around the shop helped to ease her nerves, and she was grateful that John had taken such proactive steps to ensure her safety. However, the relief was short-lived when, towards the end of her shift, Samantha noticed a familiar face peering through the shop's window. Her heart sank as she recognized Karen, glaring at her from the other side of the glass. Quickly, Samantha alerted John, who immediately called the police. But by the time the officers arrived, Karen had already vanished, leaving Samantha to wonder just how far the vindictive woman was willing to go. The police officers arrived within minutes, their sirens blaring, but by the time they had secured the perimeter, Karen had disappeared without a trace. Samantha's heart raced as she recounted the incident to the officers, her hands trembling. I can't believe she would come back here after the restraining order, Samantha said, her voice shaky. What if she tries to do something else? I'm so scared, officer. The officer, a seasoned veteran named Detective Ramirez, listened intently, his brow furrowed with concern. We're taking this very seriously, miss. We'll do everything we can to ensure your safety and find the person responsible for the threats. John, who had been standing by Samantha's side, stepped forward. Officer, I want to make sure this incident is properly documented. This woman has been harassing my employee for days, and I'm worried about her mental state and what she might do next. Detective Ramirez nodded. Absolutely, sir. We'll need to get a full statement from both of you, as well as review any additional security footage or evidence you might have. As the officers began their investigation, Samantha felt a sense of unease wash over her. She couldn't shake the feeling that Karen was lurking somewhere, waiting to strike again. Later that evening, as Samantha was preparing to leave for the day, her phone began to ring. Her heart sank when she saw the caller ID. It was Karen. Hesitantly, Samantha answered the call. Hello. You think you can get me fired and have the cops come after me? Karen's voice was laced with venom. This isn't over, you bitch. I'm going to make your life a living hell. Samantha's hands trembled, and she felt a lump in her throat. Please, Karen, just leave me alone. The police are involved now, and they're taking this very seriously. The police? Karen scoffed. Do you really think they can protect you? I have my ways of getting what I want, and I won't stop until you're out of a job and out of my life. Samantha's eyes welled with tears. Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything wrong. I just want to work in peace. That's your problem, Samantha, Karen spat. You think you can just coast through life without consequence. Well, I'm about to show you how the real world works. Before Samantha could respond, the line went dead. She stood there, frozen in fear, her mind racing with the implications of Karen's chilling threat. Quickly, she rushed back into the shop, where John was still talking to the police officers. John, she just called me, Samantha said, her voice trembling. She's not going to stop, and I'm so scared. John's face darkened with concern. Don't worry, Samantha. We're not going to let her get away with this. The police are going to increase patrols around your home, and I'm going to make sure you have a safe way to get to and from work every day. Samantha nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the overwhelming fear. Thank you, John. I don't know what I'd do without you. As the officers continued their investigation, Samantha couldn't help but wonder how far Karen was willing to go to get what she wanted. The thought sent a chill down her spine, and she knew that the battle was far from over. In the days that followed, Samantha found herself constantly on edge, her nerves frayed as she anxiously scanned the area around the coffee shop for any sign of Karen. The police had increased their patrols, and John had made sure that Samantha had a safe ride to and from work, but the looming threat of the vindictive customer lingered. One afternoon, as Samantha was preparing to leave for the day, she noticed a familiar figure lurking in the shadows across the street. Her heart raced as she recognized Karen, her face twisted in a malicious grin. Without hesitation, Samantha hurried back into the shop, her hands trembling. John, she's out there. Karen is watching me, and I'm so scared. John's expression hardened, and he quickly called the police, relaying the situation. Don't worry, Samantha, he said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The officers are on their way, and they're going to make sure you get home safely. Minutes later, the sound of sirens echoed through the street, and Samantha watched as 2 police cruisers pulled up, their lights flashing. Officers quickly sprang from the vehicles, scanning the area for any sign of Karen. Samantha held her breath as the officers approached the spot where she had seen the woman, but to her dismay, Karen had vanished. The officers searched the surrounding area, but there was no trace of the elusive customer. I'm sorry, ma'am, one of the officers said, turning to Samantha. "We couldn't find her, but we'll make sure you get home safely. We'll also increase patrols in the area, just in case she tries to come back." Samantha nodded, her relief mingled with a lingering sense of unease. "Thank you, officer. I just want this to be over." As Samantha made her way home, accompanied by a police escort, she couldn't shake the feeling that Karen was still out there, plotting her next move. The thought sent a chill down her spine, and she found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, searching for any sign of the vindictive woman. The following day, Samantha arrived at the coffee shop to find John waiting for her, his expression grave. "Samantha, I have some news," he said, his voice low. "The police just informed me that Karen has been arrested." Samantha's eyes widened in surprise. "Arrested? What happened?" John sighed heavily. "Apparently, she showed up at your apartment last night, trying to confront you. The neighbors called the police, and she was taken into custody for violating the restraining order." Samantha felt a mixture of relief and trepidation. "So, what happens now?" "The police are pressing charges, and she's being held on bail," John explained. "But I'm worried, Samantha. This woman is clearly unhinged, and I'm concerned that she might try to retaliate once she's released." Samantha nodded, her mind racing with the implications. "What do we do?" "I don't know if I can keep working here, knowing that she's out there somewhere." John placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "Samantha, I want you to know that I'm not going to let her win. We're going to fight this, and we're going to make sure she can't hurt you or anyone else ever again." Samantha felt a glimmer of hope, but the fear still lingered. As she stepped into the coffee shop, she couldn't help but wonder how this harrowing ordeal would ultimately unfold. In the wake of Karen's arrest, the coffee shop was abuzz with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Samantha found it increasingly difficult to focus on her work, her mind constantly preoccupied with thoughts of the vindictive customer and the potential consequences of her actions. John, ever the pillar of support, had been working tirelessly to ensure Samantha's safety and well-being. He had arranged for a security detail to escort her to and from work, and he had even offered to let her take some time off to recover from the ordeal. But Samantha was determined to confront her fears head-on. She knew that running away would only embolden Karen, and she refused to let the woman's toxic behavior disrupt her life any further. One afternoon, as Samantha was busy preparing orders, the sound of the shop door swinging open sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. She turned to see Karen, her eyes wild and her expression twisted with rage. "You think you can ruin my life and get away with it?" she screeched, her voice echoing through the stunned silence of the shop. Samantha felt her heart race, but she stood her ground, refusing to be cowed by the woman's outburst. "Karen, you need to leave. You're in violation of the restraining order, and the police are on their way." Karen let out a deranged laugh. "The police? Do you really think they can stop me? I'm going to make sure you lose everything. You pathetic little—" But before she could finish her sentence, the sound of sirens pierced the air, and within moments, a swarm of officers flooded into the shop, quickly apprehending the enraged customer. Samantha watched in stunned silence as Karen was led away, her cries of protest fading into the distance. John, who had been on the phone with the authorities, approached her, his expression one of relief and pride. "You did it, Samantha," he said, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You stood up to her, and you won." Samantha felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the tension that had been coiled within her finally beginning to unravel. "I couldn't have done it without you, John. Thank you for never giving up on me." John smiled warmly. "That's what family is for. Now let's get this place cleaned up and get back to serving our wonderful customers." As the day wore on, Samantha found herself surrounded by a newfound sense of optimism. The ordeal with Karen had been harrowing, but she had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. And with John and the rest of the coffee shop team in her corner, she knew that she could overcome any challenge that came her way. In the end, Karen's twisted quest for retribution had only served to bring the community closer together, and Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and gratitude for all that she had accomplished. With her head held high, she looked towards the future, ready to embrace the next chapter of her life with renewed vigor and determination.